Guys, David Smock here, and I wanted to talk to you about two-headed coins. Now, I come across a lot of these on Facebook and YouTube and really everywhere. They're very common and they're not errors, okay? And what I'm talking about is the coins where you literally see there's like you've got a half dollar usually, or sometimes a penny, sometimes a dime, different denominations. And you look, and there's heads, and then you flip it over, and it's the same year or different year sometimes, and another heads or tails and tails, etc. And they're both raised, and they look like regular coins. If you look really, really, really closely, though, you're going to see a seam. And what happens is, and I know this because, well, I've done the research, but I'm also an amateur magician. These are magician's coins. They're used for various different effects, including you can use them as a prank to say, hey, you can flip it, but I get to call it. And, they flip it and you say heads, and, it lands on heads every time. But there's some other magic effects that I'm not going to go into. Um, and what it is they have a shell, basically. Your regular coin, it might be like that, and it's cut out. So everything in the center is just hollowed out. So you have an outer shell that then you place another, let's say half dollar in this case. You get the half dollar shell is placed in there as well. Now sometimes they have to thin them down a little bit, but they are really good machinists, and they make them pretty good high quality. And these are often found, and they're mistaken as errors. And I want to talk about the only way you're going to have an error that even remotely resembles this. The first I want to talk about is, and I would say it's the more common, certainly the far more common, and a little bit more complex to get in your mind, but bear with me. That's called a brockage. There is such a thing as a two-headed coin or two-tailed coin, and it's called a brockage. But, but here's the thing. I'm going to pull up an image because I want to show you this. I want to show you what they look like. By the way, this image is courtesy of coinauctionshelp.com from Daniel Malone, who's very knowledgeable and is a very good guy. He's one of my, I consider him a good buddy. I would hope that you go check out his site. What you will see with an actual brockage, first I'm going to show it to you, and then I'm going to explain how it happens. All right? Now I'm going to disappear. No, here, let's. You have a coin, all right, and this literally is one coin. You've got a regular side and then a side. It's hard to tell from the image, but this is not only a backwards or mirror image, but it's also indented or incus. Incus is the correct term. And that just means whereas this is raised, this is not. This is the opposite way. This is down into the coin. How does this happen? Well, it happens when you have a coin that is already struck and it either stays on the die or gets stuck to the die, and then a planchet falls on top of that already struck coin. So you got, let's say this is your heads die up here. Let's say this is Lincoln's, profile and all that. And this coin is struck, boom, all right. So now you got Lincoln's head right here, all right, from the on the coin, and the die that's actually Lincoln, the Lincoln die. A planet comes in, lands on top, and strikes it, and you now have a coin that was struck by the coin on top of the die and the regular die, which results in a regular face and then a mirror image, because you have to think about how dies are. This acts as another die, and dies are exactly like brockages. They're reversed and incus. I use the term indented as well, but incus is the correct term. So they must look like this, though, or better. I used to have, this is a wonderful story, and I'll try to tell it very quickly. In 1995, when the 1995 double die Lincoln Cents came out, my family, meaning my mom and my stepdad and I, searched all across the country. Well, not all across the country, but across several states. I lived in Arkansas. I live in Northeast Arkansas, so we searched Northeast Arkansas, South East Missouri, yeah, Mississippi, Tennessee, that whole area, and we found literally hundreds. As you know, there are, if you look at the URS in the Cherry Picker's Guide, 500,000 to a million known. We found 600, so it's a lot, but not as many as there actually are. And of course, by the time we found them, prices had dropped. But one of the deals was, since I was helping out the family, because we were bringing in, at times it was $50 a coin, sometimes it was $20 a coin. Well, when you got 600 of them, that adds up. So what happened was, I was given some rolls to look through as a gift, because we knew if you found them in one spot, keep going to that same spot and you're going to keep finding them. They just got distributed that way. And so we'd find some, and then we'd go back and they'd say, David, here you can have these two rolls. And so my mom and stepdad, Jim, would go through their rolls, and they might find two or three. I'd go through my rolls literally and find five or six. I had this lucky streak, and it was absolutely amazing. And so where I'm going with this is, with that, I was able to sell these coins as a 10-year-old, 11-year old, can think for a minute. And I sold these coins to dealers as an 11-year-old. I said, hey, I got these coins. I remember this. I remember one dealer saying, "Yeah, here you go. Here's $100," and plopping, and that was a huge money for me. So anyway, I ended up. We were. I was with my stepdad outside of Memphis, Tennessee. It was a small suburb, and this gentleman had a coin shop. He was an older gentleman, had been collecting for quite a long time, and he was getting rid of his collection. And I asked if he had any errors, because that's always what I've been interested in. And he said, "Yeah, I've got a few. I've got this little notebook. It was a yellow binder, and it had 2 pages of errors. And most of them, at the time, I wasn't quite sure what they were, because I wasn't as knowledgeable back then. But there were some Jefferson nickel double strikes, some off-center coins, some, there was a fake 1937 D 3.5 leg, or 3 leg, excuse me. But you could tell it had been scraped off. But it was in there. It was kind of cool. And there was also this coin that it was, again, it looked like this penny, but it was better. On this penny, and pardon me, that's what I'm calling it. It's actually a cent. But you notice some of the detail is missing and it's not very sharp. Well, on mine, it was a dime. There was a dime. And on this dime, all the detail was crisp, clear, not distorted. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And so I didn't know what it was. I couldn't figure out for myself what it was. Finally, after doing research, I realized that it was first strike full brockage. And those naturally go for a lot of money, but even more so in this condition. It was a Mid-State 62. Got it slabbed by ANAX and came back at 62. It was a 1970D. And I showed it to James Wiles. I believe Fred Weinberg saw it. And I know I showed it to Mike Ellis. Mike Ellis has seen it. Uh, like I said, James Wiles and Bill Fiva, JT Stanton, all those guys. And I was told that it at that time was worth several hundred to $1,000. One person, and I can't remember, I can't remember who it was this time, said he if he were going to sell it, he would put it at auction, put it at a reserve of 1,000, and hope it didn't sell. So that is one way to get a two-headed coin, but it has to look like this or better. You have to have the mirror image, and it can't be, how do I put this? It can't be a coin that you can tell was already struck. What they do outside the mint, and we see this all the time again too, is these what are called vice jobs, which they don't necessarily use a vice. Sometimes they use a hammer, but they will take two coins and bash them together, and so you'll get a reverse and an indentation, but it's on an already struck coin. And keep in mind how brockages are made. That's not it's not on an already struck coin, and also you don't have the as strong impression because it's not near as much pressure. So think about that. If that was confusing at all, go back through it and rewatch it. And if you have any questions, certainly feel free to uh, comment below or ask me below. I also, by the way, oh, so what happened to my brockage? Well, first off, I'm gonna hide that for a minute because that's kind of annoying. What happened to my brockage, you ask? Well, unfortunately, in the last, I would say, 20 years or so, I've moved an awful lot. And I moved to 3 or 4 different places, including going to college. And, well, that was in 2005, so 15 years ago. And honestly, with all that moving around between my dad's, my mom's, and college, I don't know what happened to it. I've lost that brockage. And I can't tell you how much that hurts. That was, by all accounts, the nicest brockage most of those guys had ever seen. I mean, it was gorgeous. Uh, Mike Ellis still remembers it. James Wiles still remembers it. You know, it was just beautiful, gorgeous coin. Was my prized possession, and I don't have it anymore. So it's sad. So, but let me go on to another two-headed two-headed coin. Well, this would technically be two design. Sometimes, very rarely, and in fact, it's usually intentional. Or well, I don't want to say usually, but it's often found to be intentional. Two dies from different denominations will get paired together. And for instance, there's a Sacagawea paired with a Washington quarter, and those were paired. That's what you call a mule. Now, a mule is going to have the design of each of those dies. And those, you don't, I mean, you rarely see them. I knew the possibility exists, but there have only been a few known. And that was the one example that I can think of to tell you. But so generally, as a general rule, the stuff you're going to find that has two heads are magician's coins. And I was reminded of this because I saw a guy on YouTube recently that had a two-headed coin. And anyway, it is it gave me inspiration. This is not like a hey you got it wrong kind of thing or anything like that. This is a hey you gave me a good idea for a video. So anyway, I'm gonna get off here because my cat is meowing. But if you have any questions, again, comments, leave them below, and I will talk to y'all later. I'm probably gonna make some more videos. I've got summer seminar coming up. Cannot wait to go. We'll gonna try to do some streaming from there, if not some video recording. Probably just some streaming. And I will talk to you all later. Thank you. You have a wonderful, wonderful